Hi, in this video I'm going to show you guys how to solve questions that want us to prove trigonometric equations. Okay, so here we are trying to prove that 1 plus tangent square x multiplied by cos 2x is equal to 1 minus tangent x squared. Okay, now we are always going to come back to the identities that we have over here, the double angle identities, the typical tangent is equal to sine theta, tangent is equal to sine over cos, and the Pythagorean identities at the bottom. This one right there, that's the Pythagorean identities. We're always going to refer back to them, okay? So I strongly recommend you guys to remember them, but if you don't, it's okay. You will have these formulas in the formula booklet. But let's try to solve this. Now, you can see that I've written down left and LHS, RHS. They simply represent left hand side and right hand side. And that's sometimes it will not be very easy to see what are the similarities between my left and right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change them. I'm actually going to change both sides of the equation, okay? So let me do that. On the left-hand side, I have 1 plus tangent x squared. I'm going to change this. I'm going to change the tangent x squared, because if I can convert them into sine or cosine, then I have so many ways that I could mess around with them, right? Whereas for tangent, I only have this stuff to play with, right? So I'm going to try to convert them to sine or cosine. So let's do that. So I have 1 plus, so tangent x squared becomes sine x squared, and then I have cosine x squared. This is the first part. Now I have cosine 2x, I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to touch it. Okay? On the right hand side, normally we will try to mess around with the left only, and eventually my final product, so if I'm going to do all this at the end, I should get 1 minus tangent x squared, right? However, since we don't really see the similarities right now, right, it's not very obvious, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mess around with my right hand side as well. So this will become 1 minus, and I'm also going to try to remove tangent. I'm going to introduce my sine and cosine. Okay? Now let's see what happens. Now they look sort of similar, right? Because you have this 1 plus something chunky fraction, 1 minus pretty much the same fraction. So let's try to combine them. So I'll combine the first fraction. So they will have a common denominator. So the 1 becomes cosine x squared plus sine x squared, right? And then this whole thing multiplied by cosine 2x. Right. So on the right hand side, I'll do the same thing. I'll try to combine them. So I have cosine x squared, and that 1 becomes cosine x squared minus sine x squared. Okay, cool. Now they look very much the same. Not quite, but at least a bit more similar than what we had at the beginning. Now, can you tell me what this is? Isn't that our Pythagorean identity? Right. What about this one? On the right hand side, cosine square x minus sine square x. Isn't that the cosine 2 theta? The double angle identity, right? So there you go. We could simplify all that. So this whole thing becomes 1, and this whole thing becomes cosine of 2x. Right. So I will have 1 over cosine of x squared. Cosine x squared multiplied by cosine of 2x. On my left hand side, I'm able to simplify it with only cosines left. On the right hand side, I have cosine 2x over cosine x squared. And they are exactly the same, right? So now I'm just going to sort of sort of backtrack, use my use what I have on the right hand side to kind of just go back up where I started. So I can convert this to, so now this becomes cosine of 2x over cosine x squared. And cosine of 2x can be written as cosine of minus sine x squared. I'm just sort of backtracking, right? I hope you guys see what I'm doing here. And then finally I'm going to break it down. Let me just close this. I'll erase this. All right, so I'm gonna bring my right hand side over here. So now I will have cosine square x over cosine square x minus sine square x over cosine square x. This is just 1, and this becomes tangent x squared. So I'll have 1 minus tangent x squared, right? Which is what I have over here. Okay, so I hope you guys see kind of the logic behind what I'm doing here, right? So because in the beginning it is difficult for us to see the similarities, right? But after we converted both sides into sine and cosine, I could just use my left hand side somewhere over. Let me just highlight this part. This part is the same as on my left hand side. When I get to this point, it is the same as what I have on the right hand side. So that's where I can kind of just continue with my left hand side and just kind of go back up, following my right hand side. I hope that makes sense. And the technique will be we will develop our technique on solving these proving questions as we do more practice. Sometimes it could get a little bit frustrating, right? Because we know the identities and we know what they want us to do, but sometimes we can't get it. It's simply because we don't see the path, right? We don't really quite see the path. But don't stress out. The more practice you do, the better you will be. All right. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.